Depending on how you feel, this is a horror film, a mystery film, a musical, all of the above or none of the above. But one thing is for certain, it's a really weird film. The Wicker Man. By the early 70s, the British film industry was in dire straits, and this was years before the release of their first hit single, Sultans of Swing. What? Anyway, British films were either terrible low-budget horror films, terrible low-budget sex comedies, or terrible low-budget versions of terrible TV shows. You had the occasional brilliant thing like Get Carter, or one of Stanley Kubrick's UK-made films, or James Bond films, but in general, there wasn't a lot to get excited about. Christopher Lee had made his bones in horror films, mostly for Hammer Studios, and was sick to the tits of playing Dracula. He wanted to do so much more while he apparently sat and stared at a wall for 30 years until Peter Jackson called. He joined with writer Anthony Shaffer and director Robin Hardy to work on a project based on a novel by writer David Penner called Ritual. Even in the freaked out 70s, this was going to be a unique and unusual film. Behind the scenes turmoil meant that the film had to be rushed into production. It was a mess, basically. But somehow, even with all this chaos, something special emerged. It's like trying to buy a camera in-store from B&H Photo. You'd think you'd just rock up to the counter and pay for your goods and leave, but no. Wicker Man is a cool film, but not quite in the top tier of films that people know the ending of, even if they haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen the 1973 version of Wicker Man before, maybe just skip this and watch one of our other videos, and come back when you've seen the film. A policeman, Sergeant Howie, arrives by seaplane on a remote Scottish island, Summerisle.
I have come here from the mainland to investigate the disappearance of a young girl.
Howie finds the island to be, well, a lot less repressed than he's comfortable with. Howie's not one of us. He's got an enormous stick up his backside, so the randy islanders copulating in the streets, lascivious songs, and hot and cold running Brit Eklund available 24/7 doesn't sit very well with him. Which is a pity, because the way the inhabitants of Summerisle behave isn't really that far off what you would see on British television today, with dozens of shows chronically randy, vacuous people screwing each other on idyllic islands. I can say that since I'm fairly certain there's not a huge overlap between people watching this channel and Love Island. The locals are slightly standoffish, but relatively friendly. They're unhelpful, obstructive, semantically evasive, and unwilling to offer much of anything to Howie's investigation.
Now, in he goes.
It's clear there's a conspiracy of sorts, but to what end? Is the girl missing? Is she dead? Or something else? The actual investigation is one part of the story. The other part is Howie's disgust as he realises the randy sods have cast his religion aside in favour of one where you can get laid whenever and however you like, and with Brit Eklund.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy, and there is brawling in bars, there is indecency in public places. And there is corruption of the young, and now I see it all stems from here.
Howie's investigations finally lead him to meet with the charming Lord Summerisle, who educates Howie on why the place is the way it is.
By giving them back their joyous old gods.
And that as a result of this worship, the barren island would burgeon and bring forth fruit in great abundance.
Now, it seems so weird that there's this reaction from a mainlander about Summerisle. I mean, everybody being open about sex.
But they are naked.
Naturally, it's much too dangerous to jump through the fire with your clothes on.
But in the early 70s, there were lots of Howies in the UK. Prudes who were upset about what they called the permissive society, but everyone else just called society. After the sexual revolution, these were the people for whom any hint of sex was dirty.
Food isn't everything in life, you know.
People wrote letters to TV stations saying the goodies were too sexual. These people were typified by Mary Whitehouse. Basically, they wanted to be the arbiters of what other people could watch, or more accurately, couldn't watch. They were the mothers of today's Karens. Ironically, Wicker Man didn't offend them enough to get them to march in the streets and wave placards about.
Down with this sort of thing! Careful now.
So Howie is a prude, apparently engaged, and not at all tempted by the innkeeper's daughter.
It's nothing personal, just that I don't believe in it. Full marriage.
This would become an important plot point later in the film. He manages to sneak into the island's May Day celebrations by stealing a jester's costume, where he finds the missing girl he had been looking for all this time, and she's to be a sacrifice to appease the gods after the island's crops had failed that year. Blood sacrifice, if successful, kinda makes a mockery of modern project management methods like Agile or Kanban, though I hear Prince 3 might be adding goat sacrifice as an add-on module. But it was all a ruse. Howie, the devout virgin with the authority of the king, is the sacrifice.
Jesus Christ!
That, and it's quite obvious that virgins on Summer Isle are in very short supply.
It is time to keep your appointment with the Wicker Man.
The titular Wicker Man is a giant wooden figure that would be set on fire by ancient Britons, who would fill the Wicker Man with animals and other sacrifice to appease the gods. Howie, by this time, is ranting and raving like a man who's about to be burned alive, so I guess we'll let this one slide. Just this one time. Edward Woodward was a massive TV star in Britain at the time, off the back of his popular spy drama, Callan. Sergeant Howie is a big departure from shabby government killer David Callan. He's Scottish for one. So proper and full of self-righteous indignation that he should have his own podcast. Swedish actress Britt Ekland, who played Willow, was dubbed for her speaking voice by one actor, dubbed for her singing voice by another, and a body double was used for her naked dancing. So 4 people were needed to bring this one character alive, which compares favourably to Jabba the Hutt, who needed 7. Ingrid Pitt, who like Lee had appeared in many horror films, uses her own accented speaking voice. I now regret selecting the paper nipple blur effect subscription plan. Semi-retired Diane Cilento appears as the schoolteacher who manages to offend Howie with every sentence.
You never learn anything of Christianity.
Only as a comparative religion.
And Christopher Lee is perfect as the suave and oily Summer Isle.
He brought you up to be a pagan.
A heathen, conceivably, but not, I hope, an unenlightened one.
The Wicker Man accustomed me to thinking that all films about an outsider visiting a remote Scottish village would end with someone being sacrificed. For years, I was too scared to watch Local Hero all the way through, since I was convinced the American oil guy was going to die horribly in a fiery effigy at some point. Having since visited Scotland, I was pleasantly surprised that I was only set on fire twice, that I know of.
Sorry.
If there's a moral to The Wicker Man, it's don't be too disappointed when you find your teenage kids are having sex, because at least it means they are safe from being used as blood sacrifices by pagans.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
The Wicker Man is an engaging mystery filled with creepy imagery, and it's a joy to watch as Howie tries to piece together the situation. It looks lush compared to its contemporaries, and that bloody awful music aside, it's one of the best spooky films of a decade filled with spooky films. In the end, there's nothing supernatural about the film. It's just been a police procedural, with bloody awful music. The Wicker Man was never a huge smash, but became a cult classic over the years. So talk about sequels abounded for years, as did attempts to piece together longer versions of the film. And then in 2006, Nick Cage, Bees, The Wicker Man 2006, Nick Cage.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Wicker Man is a horror film that non-horror fans can enjoy. There's no blood or guts, only one person dies during the film. It's sort of sexy but unsettling. It's like hiding a copy of Fangoria inside a Victoria's Secret catalogue.
Oh, God! Oh, Jesus Christ!
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.